Hello, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a licensed journalist. Next to Fox, I'm an expert on the nature of English grammar and on communications. They have been changing and faking what people say online because of their roles with the intelligence community, the news networks, and exceptions tied to them like public television. Also involved with them with people from Russia and Ukraine, Korea, Italy, Canada, Mexico, etc. Collusion slash S at the same time with their differences too and other people's differences, religious spots. Collusion slash S also with child abusers, leaders of kids who are recorded involved with predicate acts, methods, torture, extortion, factory nature, therefore physical slavery methods against elderly homes, the same families involved with an untimely death at Trinity College, real or made up, that were involved with that and 1 years apart from that, and people associated with the syntax at the time, other methods and natures of organized crimes, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded by the investigations. Investigators were involved, retired Wethersfield police chiefs, and intimate ties to themselves and their families were and are increasingly collusion slash S, planting evidence on all sides of my house since I was a kid, with people from other areas, and with syntax. All natures of investigations, investigators originally and still. There are means recorded to demonstrate that one of the things that we were supposed to demonstrate, our founders too left us to demonstrate how they are used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions wrought, relative to their roles with the abuses of each age. Multi-front by the breaching method that had slavery entrenched even more than 13 colonies and roles with it, therefore, all kinds of crazy things against every human difference, replacing its roles with our syntax and nature's method of communications to ourselves. So the interbranch Connecticut has been refusing to identify themselves. They have the differences of the guilt of the collusion with them as the intelligence at the networks or next to them. A bunch of intelligence families next to Fox Connecticut News and Hartford Hospital. I mean, our ones involved with Hartford Hospital too. Medical and fire campuses. Same ones involved with the Britain campuses. There are multiple police departments with the same house slash S and one's tied to them and to that house since before they moved to it and to where they moved from. Involved with all kinds of foreign and domestic medical corruption, putting fake transcripts in databases, and with the news at the same time, and with the interbranch, all sides of criminal and civil cases in the interbranch on a mass scale. They've been putting fake things in databases. All kinds of collusions they have with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, first forced, other natures of organized crimes with them at the same time, even though I'm not charged, it's recorded as collusions with names at and next to the state judicial branch offices, or just going by. The differences of the guilt is manifest because there are hyperforeign that has been using names A through Z, differences A through Z remotely, or that body is sensed, including if that body is a majority of people, including if it is everyone. That's one of the reasons why and how not one voice was allowed to speak for the law. The way we are directed, only be allowed to speak for ourselves. Like, for example, all of us have black pupils, whites of eyes. In other words, all exceptions, exception nature, come with demonstration slash S of the same thing. The experts on history are forcing replaced what our founders and what nature itself communicated for us to understand about how a breaching method had reassigned what nature communicates with black pupils, whites of eyes, when nature is not only itself as criminal insidiousness nature. So they prevent people short words on a mass scale. There are people with the name Mendez and Domain involved with Wethersfield Police Department with fake transcripts of police, falsified police reports at the police station, fake ties to little kids and their families, pretended that way by putting fake transcripts there. And the kids who did go down there and speak with them years ago, now, and since they were kids, they're increasingly involved with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts. Increasingly has something to do with their roles. A bunch of people with Trinity College tied to a Ray Cololo and to a Chris Walters. They said the people, Charlie Bowes and his family, his sister, are involved also. A bunch of people with the intelligence communities, with the campuses and the departments individually grouped in together, being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically, delusions raw, from off the slash hyper criminally foreign influence. Now, Trinity College is confessing this. There's a Joshua Stryker involved, also with FBI Director Robert Luskin, involved also with Corners of Streets near me, involved with the Witness Protection Program in the FBI, with multiple body dumping spots, and people that have been collusions behind my back. And they try to make fake exceptions, like kids they put in my class that I never had a word of conversation with in class. Someone they try to make fake exceptions. And like a Joshua Julian, I never seen him around anywhere. I first saw what he looked like on Facebook. I remembered his name repeated to me by Ray Clough and a Mark Violet. Ray Clough recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he has collusions with a Mark Violet and a Justin Kovinskis and a Tim O'Brien with identity theft frauds. I never had classes with them. And the classes they put me in with a Ray Clough, when I did have a class with Ray Clough, my neighbor, they were recorded. They had that involved with predicate acts. They hid, wire crime acts and methods, home break-ins roles with the Joe DeMore and others from other areas that were involved with my neighborhood, and some of the teachers of Ray Clough, where they have roles also with the families that run the security with the campuses. Sandy Hook campuses has people with these same names involved with more sexual and medical offenders of kids, and people tied to Sandy Hook's Adam Lanza's doctors. Harvard Hospital has foreign and domestic intelligence involved with the military roles of the World Trade Center attack, foreign and domestic military. Their uses of their difference, their criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions raw, putting fake transcripts in databases. Eric Oliveri, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by other people, and in other ways it's recorded. He has roles with UPS and with other shipping people involved with the FBI and the state judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it and to that, and to Elm Streets in Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, where he has collusions with intelligence families near me, increasingly involved with the ones that faked conversations with me at the police, and me being at the police station as a kid, now as an adult, and with the news at the same time. Whole bunch of people tied to a Ray Clough, Mike Pandolf, and others have all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the news planting evidences at the same time with foreign countries, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and families involved with child abusers years apart, first forced. And the sources of the news at the same time. News has people with the name. They have kids and adults in their family interbranch and intelligence tied to them. And like one's named O'Neill, who teaches in West Hartford, has their kids in Wethersfield, involved in between campuses with predicate acts with facts, identity theft, fraud, slanders. They have the Department of Education and people that live next to it, including a former mayors and their family members in conjunctions to them, have time collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and more sexual confessions and confirmations by people like a John DeMorrow and a Joe DeMorrow, and have a Paul DeMorrow recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved also. But with them, with various natures of federal evidences, crimes, and child abuse. And everyone speaking to other. I never had a class with Joe DeMorrow. They tried to make a fake exception with a middle school, summer school class. They had roles with their sexual circles in my neighbor, involved in their roles with home break-ins. Mr. Neville all along Route 3. A Kerr family said that also he has collusions with them, people along Route 3. And Mr. Neville repeated that. Has something to do with a Donahue too. Might have roles with that general, because the military has worse than criminal incompetence and collusion /S with the World Trade Center attack, interstates and intrastates, intercampuses and intra-campuses. There were also murders of police that might have been murders, like an accident with a car, per confessions tied to that years ahead of time. There are vertical and horizontal confessions made. There are confessions from strangers. Then years later, if you respond to that, it makes it look like you know them. Also, they did that at the corners of the street. Some of the Russians involved. Increasingly, people involved with the corner of Highcrest Street and Fox Hill and the other corners on Highcrest Street are people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. A Rick Cianfaglione recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed with others. There's a Brendan Leahy involved with a Brian Silver and others within the Britton Superior Court, Hartford Courts, and the District Court. He didn't say that, but they were recorded involved with fake conversations with me, collusions with this Leahy family, fake conversations with me. He's been planting evidences with a Rick Cianfaglione and others from other areas who came to my street to make confessions to me. I never tried to seek him out. A whole bunch of people I never tried to seek out sought me out to make confessions and then try to make it look like I'm tied to them and the people increasingly involved with wire crime acts and methods, falsified police reports with multiple police departments. Their whole careers are kept criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. That's what's actually recorded. This is manifest this way at countries A through Z. Here, Anthony. Follow mandated law for them. Please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. WFSB is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed the intelligence there, the difference of their guilt or the guilt next to them. These are increasingly people involved with victims advocates, involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, and uses of all that comes before the court, where they're putting fake motivations. Also, the sources of WTNH, stealing my identity. People don't even know me, putting their kids involved at the corners of the street. They're also involved at the corner street with WTNH. And more people that one of the educators further involved with child abusers years apart. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Lance Cuddy, who's also one of the ones with a Phil Cololo, Phio Cololo, involved with a Bob Chase and Whiting Forensics, further with the principal upskirt nature and sexual and medical offenders of kids, and ones with Whiting Forensics with Sandy Hook and the state corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices, and conjunctions to that and to that. Also with the military involved with planting evidences and sensibilities, collusions with extortion and identity thefts and frauds that you involve their uses of Connecticut boxing gyms and voices, as ones involved directly and indirectly with the people interstates and international with World Trade Center predicate acts, and with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions that have been collusions with the crime scenes with that, and interbranch and the intelligence tied to them, all sides of criminal and civil cases and news, putting the same sequence shifts at the same time, keeps them incapable of making the proper subject treatments, proper exception treatments, the way nature uses them, per their roles, planting fake exceptions, valuing them, what is actually recorded. But those things are used to show the members of the branches of the government, the names of the people, the sciences. They can't afford to have what's actually discernible, and actually recorded, discerned that way, and appreciated properly. And the breaching method gave them all kinds of excuses. So increasingly, though, it's concentrated with judges and their family members with the same house, involved with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, and fake transcripts into databases, all kinds of collusions with all natures of sciences like nursing and nurses, EMS associated with this Leahy family, fire departments, with an inspector Mike refusing to identify himself legitimately. Multiple fire departments are leaking their collusion/S with the family members in conjunctions to Wethersfield and Intercities mayors and other natures of politicians involved. Increasingly, people associated with Town Line Drive have the branch of the government individually grouped together, and people tied to them and to their families involved with sequence shifts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with the names of all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions, including a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his defendant capacities, further involved with child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, first force. Even if that was made up, they have predicate acts, collusion/S with them. and with the names of the World Trade Center predicate acts with WFSB, which was the value of their attaching me to fake and me and others they put it to change communications about what really happened. And we were ones that were in the court next to the World Trade Center right before the attack. Names on all sides of that case in the court. It was proven after from inside the court before the World Trade Center attack, right before it. And through that, they were involved with having from inside the court post-dated things to make them appear as if they were handed in late to the court right before the World Trade Center attack. The same ones involved interstates with the news media and with their Facebook pages and with forensics names, changing and faking the digital evidences. All kinds of collusions with the departments at the campuses, refusing to get on paper. They put me in fake conversations and ties to a Joshua Stryker at Trinity College with an officer named, he uses the name Darth Vader over the phone. Darth Vader involved too, in other words, with the interbranch refusing to identify themselves and their family members and the people from other areas that have roles with untimely deaths near my street and confessions on my street about it, like a Rob Rodriguez that also brought up the principal child abuser. Intercities and intra-cities, they make confessions at the same time per a method that is associated with the FBI director and other agencies and courts where they use the rights and directions to lie where they don't have the right to lie. They have criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought readings of statutes and precedents relative to where and to how. They know that they valued their Facebook pages that way and what people say and say. There are proofs that, in other words, this is inseparable from their roles with everything that the sense and sensibilities of Judge Napolitano are being and have been played. Per Facebook, too, the differences between the agency's roles and the court's roles, changing and faking digital evidences, or Facebook themselves. Also, with the word extremism, they have all kinds of medical corruption and roles with the stories of Fox Connecticut News and roles with recorded use /s of names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, crime scenes, and the interbranch intelligence tied to them in the news at the same time, self-valued roles, right where no one self-values it too at the same time. But they're defending their subject treatments, they're fact treating nature, quality aspects in nature without really, just like with black people's rights of eyes, you guys have self-valued roles of placing what practical reason, use Immanuel Kant's phrase, would have spoken for our founders, for nature itself. You guys need to follow mandated law. So you guys are using other people's information in courts that have had collusion /s, especially for what I caught involved with the Connecticut judicial branch offices, the corrections offices, the difference of guilt there, or conjunctions to them. That's also why and how a guy with a red pickup truck who was playing football with people across the street from my house has posted a picture of that truck at a little body of water, like a little pond, totally tactically denatured, next to the Wethersfield judicial branch offices. Increasingly, people next to the state judicial branch offices like DeMauro and Oliveri have been planting evidences there and on and off campuses with identity theft, fraud, slanders. With my teacher, and he had personal and professional roles with my teacher with the FBI. I don't even remember his name. And their roles with, markets positions at the time, the markets companies and stuff like that. This really messed me up because I should have gotten into the markets. I would have gotten into the markets years ago. While there's organized crime associated with those locations, 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike are increasingly involved with people with interbranch and foreign identity theft, fraud, slanders, people taking pictures to make it look like people know others consciously. That's why in other words, they can't get on paper. Fix the fake conversations with me about the World Trade Center attack, and they faked what other people communicated about that. as collusions too, lying about the outcome in legal cases. WFSB and their sources, Fox Connecticut News and their sources, WTNH and their sources have multiple unions involved with readings of law, statutes, and precedents where they have the right to lie about other people in elections and things like that, where they use that where they don't have the right to lie, as collusion/S timed with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. A bunch of students at the campuses I went will tell you that they were fit to collusions with syntax that involves names on all sides of my house and all sides of their house. This is how they play people, sense and sensibilities, leaving out the foreign names and the hyper foreign involved. And they force Saudis to collusions with Wethersfield Police and the FBI, with the ones interstates and internationally involved. On Facebook too. I asked Saudi Arabia themselves, please get them on paper, one name and sequence, Americans and people from Saudi Arabia. Watch what I caught them doing with religious spots and child abuse leaders of kids. Watch.